October's coming to an end, and with it the end of the spooky reviews. So, let's save the spookiest one for last. And what could be spookier than a Batman comic? A Batman comic that doesn't feature Batman. Huh, I didn't even mention that it was from the New 52. Let's begin. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Tales to Showcase, where we just might be as crazy as the bad guys. I'm your host, the Watcher of New Earth. Well, October's coming to an end, and with it the spooky reviews. Not that any of them have been particularly scary, but today we will be looking at a comic that kinda does give me the creeps. Batman The Dark Knight was one of several Batman titles that came with the New 52 reboot. This, however, is an annual. As such, it doesn't connect with the story that was currently going on in the book. The series, and more importantly this issue, was written by Greg Hurwitz, acclaimed novelist whose best-known comic writings include this book, Wolverine, and The Punisher. The art's done by Simon Kudronsky, who's best known for his work on Spawn. Let's get started with Batman The Dark Knight, Annual Number 1, and see just what about this issue gives me the willies. Our story begins on Halloween night as a car arrives at a gate. You sure about this, boss? No, not at all, but he did say to come alone. And that, of course, trumps my gut feeling and common sense. It's revealed that the car had arrived at Arkham Detention Facility for Youth. Arkham Asylum Light, if you will. We quickly find out that it was Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter, who arrived. He has received an invitation from the Penguin to meet and discuss a business proposition. He begins to explore the abandoned building, and, judging by this art, it seems that today Jervis will be played by Martin Freeman. And I am totally fine with that. Martin Freeman's awesome. It seems like Jervis is having flashbacks to his time here as a child. He sees doctors experimenting on him, and himself banging his head on the wall and painting fan art with his own blood. Interesting technique. I probably would have used a brush, but hey, maybe I just don't get your art. However, these flashbacks seem to be too much for Jervis, and he cries out for Cobblepot, saying that if this is a game, he'll skin him alive. Cobblepot laughs and steps through a door and tells Jervis that he really must be crazy to have invited him and freak out when he's a few minutes late. And, sure enough, Oswald has an invitation from Jervis, similar to the one Jervis had from Cobblepot. But before we get to all that, a few things. First, those invitations don't have a time, so how would Cobblepot know that he's late? Hell, how did Jervis know what time to show up? And second, this guy just said he was gonna skin you alive, and you didn't. You just walked out? What's wrong with you? And lastly, what is this light and where is it coming from? Okay, now that that's out, back to the story. Jervis shows Cobblepot the invitation and they realize that someone has tricked them. Cobblepot asks who, and a lightning bolt suddenly strikes outside. A lightning bolt? Of course, it was Thor! Outside the window, however, there seems to be a scarecrow. A scarecrow? Of course, it was Two-Face! Jervis and Cobblepot run out to where they saw the scarecrow, obviously thinking that Jonathan Crane is responsible. However, when they're outside, they see that it was just a regular scarecrow. Crane, however, is there, having received an invitation himself. This again leads to the question of who called them all there. Suddenly, a flock of bats fly overhead. Bats? Of course! It was... Okay, I'll stop. The three retreat inside, fearing that Batman has led them into a trap. They begin to panic, but Cobblepot reprimands them and tells them that this is what Batman would want. Suddenly, the chandelier begins to shake, and when it falls, it almost takes them all out. Huh. I didn't know chandelier could learn takedown. They are all naturally shaken. Crane, however, seems to be optimistic, noticing how there are no skylights or stained glass windows, meaning that Batman can't crash in through them. The Penguin then jokes that with all the broken windows in the city, they'd make a killing by opening a window repair business. That's a great idea! Why haven't you done that yet? The three continue to talk about the things they dislike about Batman. Strangely enough, one of the things is how he doesn't ask how their day went. Yeah, I'm sure that him asking you how your day went will make the broken arm hurt less. They try to remain calm, but their nerves get the better of them. They decide to make a run for it to a maze on the side of the building. As they're exiting, they accidentally bump a music box. This somehow turns it on. The music box begins to play Three Blind Mice and continues on as the trio enters the maze. And, you know what? For three supposedly accomplished supervillains, they are really bad at hedge mazes. And how loud is this music box that they're able to hear it outside? I mean, I guess it's an appropriate music choice after all, but the thing must be hooked up to a speaker or something. They all panic as they think they see him, but it's just the scarecrow from before, only now covered in bats. However, they've been outside too long, and the Hatter says he's coming.
That's what she said.
They run back inside, stepping on the music box and finally ending the song. Cobblepot is angry at Crane for suggesting the maze, teasing that Crane lost his mind when his father locked him in the cellar. How does Cobblepot know that happened? What, do all the Bat villains just come around a table and discuss their origin stories? Because I would love to see that. Crane seems to have had enough of Cobblepot as he puts on a mask and looks straight at Oswald. It seems to work similar to the Psycho Pirate's mask, as it accesses the victim's mind and makes them feel differently. Fear, being Crane's motif, is what this one invokes. Cobblepot suddenly sees what appears to be his childhood bullies chanting "Fly, Penguin, Fly." Which is a really weird joke to make because penguins don't fly! I'm a little unclear on what happens next. It looks like Cobblepot shoots at Crane with darts and suddenly Crane's fear gas leaks, engulfing them all and leading to some trippy hallucinations. Two of these guys have strong fear against parental figures, Cobblepot his mother and Crane his father. This could have been a clever parallel to Batman, one not having his parents but loving them, and the other two having them but fearing them. However, this is totally thrown out by the fact that Jervis's biggest fear is his fictional crush being ugly. One of these fears is not like the others, one of these fears just doesn't belong. Props, though, on the demonic Batman shadow surrounding them all, kind of like an underlying fear to all of them. They separate and all of them enter their own fears, Jervis watching himself be experimented on as a child, Cobblepot walking into a fog and being confronted by his mother, and Crane walking into one of his dad's experiments. Subject showed increased heart rate when exposed to fearsome stimuli. No kidding! Your heart beats faster when you're afraid. What other discoveries has this guy made? Let's find out! Let's see. Water makes things wet. Gravity holds us down. Zack Snyder doesn't get why superheroes work. This guy. Really breaking new ground here, guy. All jokes aside, these sequences do still kinda hit me in the feels. Jervis's obvious childhood trauma is horrific. The Penguin listening to his mother tell him that she only pretended to love him, and Crane being put through experiments just because his dad blames him for his mother's death is just... wow. I mean, I know these guys are all terrible, but it's hard not to feel for them. Kinda lets you see that maybe these guys are evil because they got dealt a really crappy hand. I don't know, something about seeing these guys lower than rock bottom is just kinda depressing. Anyways, they all end up falling down the stairs and lay unconscious at the bottom. Which is odd, considering that they were all at the bottom of the stairs when they got gassed. They all slowly regain consciousness as dawn breaks outside. Having gone the whole night without running into Batman, they all stumble out into the morning, swearing to never talk about this night again. Oh, come on, don't pretend like you weren't bonding back there. We then cut to Wayne Manor, where Bruce Wayne awakens to the dawn. Alfred walks in, commenting on how peaceful Halloween was for once. He asks Bruce how he spent the night, and Bruce simply says that he relaxed. And the comic ends with a shot of his computer, confirming that he sent the invitations. And it seems like they're trying to play it as a twist, but considering that the villains pretty much let us know from the get-go that they knew it was Batman, it's kind of a sucky twist. Anyways, that was Batman the Dark Knight Annual #1. He was okay. The story's not anything special, but for a seemingly boring concept, they are able to tell an interesting story. The art is really good. The use of shadows and various forms of lighting really help define the mood of the story. However, this is a slight issue in a few panels where it's a little hard to tell what happened, but it's not that big a deal. One thing that does kind of bug me is how there's absolutely no Batman in this Batman comic. I mean, for other stories like Penguin Triumphant, you kind of accept that it's not his story, and he's just there, but in a book titled Batman the Dark Knight, you kind of expect to see Batman. It doesn't really hurt the story, but it's a tad annoying. Also, am I the only one that finds it a tad weird that Batman put them all through this psychological torture as if he was the villain for once? Maybe that was the point, but I don't know, just kind of disturbing to me, but whatever. This book is good, but with so many other great Batman stories, this one doesn't really seem worth the time. Anyways, Happy Halloween, folks, and as always, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. This is the Watcher of New Earth, signing off.